So we are hosting this press conference on behalf of all of our partners across the region. And it is an orthodox one for two big reasons. First, it's digital only. And second, it's also unique because we will have a total of about 17 speakers from across the state talking for 2 minutes each about their respective economic relief work. Now, we felt it was important to have as many voices as possible showing the unprecedented actions government agencies, chambers, and cities have taken to help as many people as possible. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to make a quick note to all the journalists watching now. Please remember to email me if you want to ask a question, and I will put you on the list. And so when I call out your name, please mention who the question is for. There is a chance that this might go over the allotted time. So if we do run out of time, just contact me again and I will do my best to accommodate everyone's questions. Okay, so with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mayor Ted Wheeler. Mayor.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us here today. Let me start by saying this. Obviously, this is an anxious time for a lot of people, but Oregonians have a lot to be proud of as well. We took early and aggressive action when COVID-19 hit, and as a result, we're not seeing the devastating effects it's had on other states. It's due in large part because so many of you took this virus seriously. So for those of you who are listening to this, thank you for playing a critical role in saving lives. Now, we convened this press conference, as Eileen indicated, because there's a lot happening in every corner of Oregon on economic relief. And we wanted to give an opportunity to all of our partners to have a chance to talk about that important work at a time when so many people are in need. We're here today to share the latest emergency actions being taken and the hard work that's being done to ensure the region and the state have economic resilience and a good recovery. So here's a quick recap of what we've done at the City of Portland. We immediately convened an economic recovery task force. We immediately freed up $150,000 to help small businesses that were the earliest and the hardest hit in Portland's J District. Then the City Council unanimously voted for $2 million to help respond to efforts so that even more businesses and people in need could get the help they want. That was matched by $1 million plus contribution from the private sector. In addition, $1 million was allocated to help support Portlanders in their housing. And as for what's coming up, I promised more help is on the way, and it is. Beginning next week, for example, the Portland Housing Bureau is going to begin taking applications for the distribution of $200,000 to households suffering a loss of income due to COVID-19 for urgent household needs like groceries or utilities or medical expenses. Another $800,000 will be distributed through service agencies and homeless service providers. Also, you've likely heard about the federal funding coming to both cities and states. The City of Portland has officially received a little over $114 million from the federal government. We are still awaiting guidance from the U.S. Treasury on how these resources can be used specifically. So expect more details on that. So to wrap up my portion, I want to end on this. Oregon stands out as a national model for states that have taken COVID-19 seriously and aggressively. I can't tell you how proud and frankly, how relieved I am about this, but our work is obviously far from over. We're still going to feel the effects of COVID for years to come. And that's why it's never been more critical for all of us to learn from each other. A special thank you also to the media for playing a critical role in informing the public on health, safety, and their well-being. We obviously couldn't do this without you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for that. One quick operational note. Adam, can you mute the captioner so that we don't hear the typing, please? Thank you very much. Okay. Up next, President Lynn Peterson of Metro.
Thank you, Eileen and Mayor Wheeler. Much appreciated for hosting this event. While working through our own initial and immediate economic shock related to the closure of the visitor venues, We've also been working to be good partners to those on the front lines of this crisis. We've opened up the Oregon Convention Center as a shelter with physical distancing. We've donated personal protective equipment from our household hazardous waste teams to OHSU. And we've been working with medical providers to help ensure efficient testing in our region. Metro is focused on a resilient, equitable, region-wide economic development plan that coordinates our voices at the local level going forward. This plan will involve Greater Portland, Inc., and you will hear from Matt Miller later, and we will work with our region's mayors and community leaders to develop a regional economic recovery plan. It's too early to launch into the full recovery phase, but we are working on the framework so that we are ready to launch a successful regional effort at the appropriate time. This plan will need to support and protect the small local businesses that are the backbone of our economy, build equitable health in communities of color, which has proven to result in greater economic gains for everyone, support region-wide growth and prosperity, restore Oregon's tourism sector when the time is right, live up to our principles of sustainability, invest in our transportation system so once people need to get back to work and they need work, we will help them find a job and where they need to go. And there's lots more to be done. And I know that the mayors of this region will support region-wide efforts to rebuild the economy. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you, President Peterson. Next, we have Chair Deborah Kufori of Multnomah County.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mary Wheeler, for organizing this press event. This crisis has challenged every one of us personally and professionally, but it's helped to crystallize in my mind some of the things that make our community special. We've seen neighbors helping neighbors, people showing up with generosity and courage, employees showing up to do hard work in hard times, and businesses stepping up for our collective well-being, whether by maintaining vital services or temporarily closing their doors to help keep people home and healthy. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the critical role that Multnomah County plays every day and during crisis. First, we're leading the local public health response to this pandemic, making every effort to slow the spread of the virus and keep our community members as healthy and safe as possible. Second, we, along with our countless partners, are our community's safety net. The need for these life-saving services doesn't go away in a crisis. They deepen and grow, and Multnomah County will continue meeting these needs safely and effectively. We've continued operating community health clinics and behavioral health programs, as well as services for older adults and people with disabilities. We've invested even more in domestic violence interventions because we know periods of social isolation can be especially dangerous for some people. And with our partners at the city and at Metro, we quickly adjusted our shelter services. We moved almost 400 shelter beds to create the space needed throughout our shelter system, and we've dedicated hotel rooms to people who are ill. From our department leaders to our frontline staff, we are working daily to ensure that those who are vulnerable in our community are not left behind by our response. This is true during a crisis, but we cannot lose our focus once the emergency has been lifted, because for too many in our community, the impact from COVID-19 will continue long after. I know there's a growing desire to reopen businesses and public spaces and recapture what passed for normal just a few months ago. It's something that I've found myself grappling with as well. But we have the responsibility as leaders and as a community to redefine and reimagine what normal looks like, because normal was built on inequities. There are higher barriers to health, wealth, and opportunities for people of color. People of color are disproportionately expected to go to work in order to get paid, take public transit to work, where they are then paid at lower wages, and come home to more tenuous housing. And when people of color get sick, they are more likely to have inadequate access to healthcare. We're seeing that play out right now in our nation, as evidence shows that people from African American, Black, Latinx, and Indigenous communities are at a particularly high risk of infection and severe complications from COVID-19. The process of bringing relief and recovery to our entire community will require making more room for and listening to voices of color, and then taking steps toward fixing what is unjust. And that means when we talk about recovery and reopening, it goes beyond opening up businesses and public spaces. We should also be looking out for the people for whom this crisis will have a lasting impact. Multnomah County is committed to taking action and charting that path forward together with the leaders at this meeting today and with our broader community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Fori. Next, we have Mayor Shane Bemis of Gresham. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Mayor Wheeler, and all that are on the call. Appreciate this time in order for us to update everybody on what's going on in each one of our jurisdictions. I will focus my comments basically on sort of the economic package that we have put forward and how that's kind of worked out. I've been incredibly proud of our organization at the city and our public servants that work here. They really went to work right away and rolled up their sleeves to try and get some relief to our residents as quickly and expeditiously as they could. Within 2 days of the governor's stay-at-home order, we had already closed phase one of our small business grants, and those were basically up to $10,000 focused. The first phase was focused only on the restaurant industry when that was the first stay-at-home closure order that the governor had released was to that industry. We got liquidity to that industry as quick as we could, and then we also, at the same time, we closed commercial tenant evictions. We made it so that could not happen. We did residential tenant evictions as well. And then we put together an economic impact team of subject matter experts from across the region to try and help us as we not only are thinking about the second that we're in right now, but what the future looks like as well. We want to make sure we spend a lot of time and energy making sure that our business community is vibrant and successful. And we want to make sure that when we get to the other side of this virus, that they are intact and with us as well. We opened up phase two of the small business grant program. We had about 277 businesses come in on that. And we just shy of $1 million of both of those programs that went out the door to local entrepreneurs. And we know that it has made quite a difference in many people's lives. We also took a lot of real smart people whose work has been disrupted at the city. We knew that business owners were probably not going to be in the right frame of mind to go through the bureaucracy that is, some of the SBA applications and stuff. So we asked our team to become subject matter experts in the SBA process and to be able to help businesses through that. So sort of a technical advisory team for the SBA. So our staff got up to speed really quickly on that, and they've been able to help businesses as they called in to help fill out the application or where to direct them in one of the programs or that sort of thing. So we've redoubled our efforts to make sure that we are open and accessible to the businesses that need help. Again, we got a lot of those grants out the door. We are carefully watching the CARES funding and what that means locally. Mayor Wheeler will have a direct appropriation, but for the rest of the cities in the region, there will not be a direct appropriation. So we're trying to figure out what that means in terms of working with the state and our partners and what we can count on. It's an awful paradox in local government when you're being squeezed for resources and yet you're being asked with your police and fire to be on the front line and be the first responders to everything, but your resources are vanishing as you speak. So, I'm confident that between the folks in the region and the state and our federal representation, that we'll be able to figure that out. But that is one that we are watching closely because we know that we're going to have some lost resources there. But all in all, like many of the other mayors, I've been impressed watching the mayors around the region do their work with their constituents. Local officials right now, I think, are doing great work across not only the state but the country for the people that they represent. It's never been better to be in war with all of you all. So thank you all for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Up next, we have Mayor Denny Doyle of Beaverton. Mayor?
Well, good afternoon. I'm Denny Doyle, Mayor of the great city of Beaverton. Like most cities, we are doing a lot to help maintain their ability to conduct business when this is over. Beaverton also deployed emergency operating capital for businesses pivoting to assist in relief efforts related to COVID-19. This is expected to be one of our main recovery assistance tools for business seeking capital as they reopen. Example was funding we helped UR, a Beaverton Cosmetics company, to change and pivot quickly to produce hand sanitizers that is now being provided to first providers across the region, and it's actually becoming a marketing ability for them. We also teamed up with a small business legal clinic in Impact Beaverton to release a comprehensive FAQ for business owners about commercial leases, how to go about making sure that you're able to stay where you're at. We're also partnering with our Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce and our Beaverton Downtown Association, our diversity advisory team, and looking out things that we can do. One of the campaigns is Takeout Thursday, which encourages residents to take local restaurants takeout at least once a week. The city is helping advertise that and promote that through the city, through the region rather. Beaverton also is looking for new ways to support our residents and care for our most vulnerable community members. Early on, Beaverton passed a residential eviction moratorium to ensure displaced workers and struggling business owners can remain in their homes. Likewise, we're looking at a national level to help the folks who are the landlords maintain their lease or their mortgages in this troubled time. We launched a housing hotline. We reopened our severe weather shelter with the proper spacing. We suspended water shutoffs, halted library fines, and continued our specialty court services remotely and virtually. Beaverton City Council and I are really proud of what we've been able to achieve, and we're committed to doing much more. Building in Beaverton continues. Permits and inspections are ongoing. Police services and city maintenance has never stopped. Our library is providing virtual programming, sing-alongs, activities. Just check the website there. Our city council meets virtually, and the financial health of Beaverton is strong right now. Our neighborhoods are resilient, and our residents are ready to help. We can all share stories of what we've seen. It's been pretty impressive how people are helping one another, especially those in need. We are working hard to respond to the pandemic, and the support from the state's allocation of the CARES Act and from the federal government is going to be critical to maintaining our service levels and what we can and can't do for our citizens. The city council is putting up another $500,000 to help the businesses, and the need for much more is there. So the only way we're going to get through this is together. And as Mayor Bemis indicated, this region is working together. And Mayor Wheeler, I'm glad you put this press conference together because it will show what the cities, we're right here at the local level. We got our feet on the ground and we are helping as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. Next, we have Mayor Steve Calloway of Hillsborough. Mayor?
Thank you very much. And over the last month in Hillsborough, we have responded to the direct need in our community with small business grants to the tune of about $1 million, $1 million, and about 400 small businesses have received grants as a result. We have provided rent assistance for families and investments in homeless shelters and food insecurities to a total commitment and investment of $1.5 million. Following the lead of Portland General Electric and Northwest Natural, we have eliminated late fees and shutoffs for those residents who are unable to pay their water bill. And we are doing all of this as quickly as possible, keeping in the front of our minds the fact that this crisis is having a disproportionate impact on our communities of color. So we continue to evaluate what more we can do despite an uncertain financial future for cities and counties and our businesses. And I'd like to give a special acknowledgement to our Hillsborough Chamber of Commerce, who has been a partner with us in our small business grant application and our economic recovery direction. Now, you can find more details about all of our programs on the city's dedicated COVID-19 website. We are appreciative of the swift action of the state and federal government and are anxiously awaiting further state and federal actions. And while we continue to do everything within our means, we need help from our state and federal partners to ensure cities and counties receive direct financial support through current and future CARES Act resources. This critical assistance will ensure cities and counties can continue to deploy direct and efficient aid to our shared constituents and continue to provide stable local services. Cities and counties are a vital part of the state and federal response to CV-19, and our ability to provide critical services and effectively respond to our community will result in better outcomes for small businesses and families and help the collective effort to overcome this crisis presently and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Calloway. Next, we have Mayor Lucy Venus of Eugene. Mayor?
Good afternoon. Thank you for including me in this conference. I will present Eugene's work in 3 sections: our immediate relief for our local businesses, ongoing construction investments, and recovery plans. For local businesses, in partnership with Lane County and Springfield, we funded an emergency loan program to provide very low-cost short-term financing for very small businesses. The funds were immediately exhausted. We offered a payment schedule allowing businesses in our loan program to adjust or defer payments. We are working with tenants in city properties to identify a path to help them stay in business. And we've also worked with restaurants and stores in the downtown to make curbside takeout as easy as possible. One industry that remains in motion is construction. Our building and permit services team has continued to provide their normal services. Eugene's online permitting system enables staff to work remotely. Building plans are still reviewed and permitted, and even our inspectors are inspecting, sometimes in the field and sometimes virtually. One of our ongoing major construction projects is the redevelopment of Hayward Field, which had been scheduled for completion in time to host the 2020 Olympic trials. This and other projects employ hundreds of people. Keeping them going minimizes the negative economic impacts of the shutdown. We are now building our economic recovery plans for the reopening of the economy and the long term. Our plan for the reopening will build off the governor's reopening Oregon plan. We want to be consistent across the state. We're also working with local business owners on creative solutions to meet the safety guidelines from the state. For long-term recovery, we're working to understand the depth of the economic damage. We are lucky to have the University of Oregon and its expertise, and will partner with experts in economics and development to create practical policies. Finally, Eugene has regular press conferences with our regional partners, Springfield and Lane County, where we convey a coordinated message. That coordination of accurate and consistent information will be key as we develop our recovery plans. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mayor Venus. Next up, we have Yuri Cernande with the Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce. Yuri?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yuri Cernande from the Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce. We're the voice and community for the Asian Pacific Islander community. I want to first thank everyone, specifically all the mayors statewide that have continued to support us, specifically Mayor Ted Wheeler for the support with the J District and our partnership through Apano. Our community has been hit very hard through this crisis, and a lot of the restaurant owners specific to the J Districts and all the hardships and challenges that our community has been facing has gained a number of pre-COVID-19. We've had issues with funding and capital access and equal opportunity. And now more than ever, we need your guys' support. And I want to thank you, everybody, for
Okay, we might be having some technical difficulties with Yuri, but Yuri, thank you so much for your comments. We are in this together, and We appreciate all the work that APAC is doing too. Okay, next we have Jan Mason with the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Oregon. Hi, Jan.
Hi, Eileen. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mayor Wheeler and other regional and state dignitaries and our partners here today. My name again is Jan Mason. I am the president of the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Oregon, known as PACO. As a volunteer board member, I'd like to also recognize my colleagues at McKinsey for enabling me to engage in this vitally important community work. On the night of Friday, March 13th, on the eve of the anticipated statewide closures on March 16th, I received my first COVID-19 related inquiry from Carlo Lamagna, owner of Magna Casina, requesting information on what possible grants or loans were available to small business owners in Portland. Nearly overnight, this emerging culinary destination, recently featured on Travel Portland's website, was at risk of sunsetting, along with 3 other Filipino American restaurants in Portland. Through quick action, on March 20th, Portland's COVID-19 Economic Impact and Intervention Task Force convened. As a result, we were able to quickly share with business owners the potential funding for which they could apply. While we celebrate businesses that were spared complete shutdown, the vital work of interventions continues, and planning for recovery and reopening is in play. Thousands of businesses, while qualified, have yet benefited from federal or local relief, like the restaurants just mentioned. Without these interventions, we stand to lose not only restaurants, but the very fabric of culture discovered through culinary arts and other service-oriented businesses. I am present here today to emphasize our chamber's continuing commitment to work together with fellow chambers, businesses, and the government to hold each other accountable, as well as collectively partner to ensure an equitable, inclusive economy. The intersection of our traded sectors and service industries is what makes our place, our cities, our counties, and the state of Oregon unique. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the government and all present and our chamber partners, and we look forward to continuing our tirelessly working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Next up is James Parker with Oregon Native American Chamber. Hi, James.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, Portland City Council, and the leadership at Prosper Portland for the invitation to speak in support of the Native business community. We acknowledge and appreciate all the proactive and steady leadership on display in this call today and provided during this crisis. My name is James Allen Parker. I'm an enrolled citizen of the Chippewa Cree Tribal Nation, and I'm the Executive Director of the Oregon Native American Chamber. We're an organization with over 250 members across the state and serving 75 Native-owned businesses here in the Portland metro area. The COVID-19 pandemic has and continues to have drastic effects on our daily lives, how we interact with each other, our ability to care for our youth, elders, and community. The destructive financial impacts are both acute and long-term, and will continue to severely harm the communities and people least able to recover. Native-owned businesses across Oregon are often economic lifelines for their communities through employment and services provided. However, because of the historic and current inequities built into our society, we are facing an extinction-level crisis. As the economic downturn and recovery of 2008 taught us, the very inequities we've allowed to flourish will only serve to deepen existing inequities without continued bold action from elected leadership. However, together, we move forward and toward the opportunity to transform public and private sector response to frontline communities with our innovative and collaborative efforts rooted in racial, social, and economic justice. We recognize and applaud the City of Portland for centering equity as a guiding principle for economic relief in their immediate response to this crisis with the Portland Small Business Relief Fund. It is these efforts and actions that ONAC and our coalition partners are advocating at the state level now to follow suit. However, it will take the continued and tireless efforts of our leadership and agencies and their staff, our fellow community-centered organizations and chambers, and most importantly, our businesses and entrepreneurs. It will take each one of us working each day towards equity in process and outcomes, and towards a just economy for every person that lives and works in Portland. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Next, we have Carmen Castro with the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber. Hi, Carmen.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, public officials, and community partners. I am Carmen Castro, the Executive Director of the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber. The Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber exists to support the Latino business community in Portland and surrounding areas. We do our work through our many programs, our Latino Leadership Program, our Scholarship Program for area Latino students, and our Small Business Development Program. Through our Business Development Program, we help small business start and grow. And we do that through sharing resources, conducting workshops, and providing one-on-one help in both English and Spanish. With COVID-19, we're now focusing on helping small businesses survive. This includes crafting adaptability plans and accessing resources. While some of our businesses have been able to access grants and loans for them, many have not, especially those businesses who do pay taxes but do not qualify for any current relief programs due to legal status. The Hispanic Chamber is here today to advocate for all businesses regardless of legal status. All businesses contribute to the fabric of our local economy and employ local residents and help support families. We greatly appreciate the effort and the work that has been done so far and urge you, all our partners, to continue to expand all the efforts to include all businesses. Thank you, Mayor, local agencies, and allies for your work during this crisis.
Thank you, Carmen. Up next is Kimberly Branham of Prosper Portland. Kimberly.
Thank you, Eileen. Good afternoon, everyone. In collaboration with Mayor Wheeler, Portland City Council, and the Economic Recovery Task Force, Prosper Portland is determined to support our community through this economic shock and recovery. Our efforts have focused on supporting impacted households, helping local businesses, and increasing access to key resources. Every action is grounded by our commitment to prioritizing support to the most vulnerable and applying a racial equity lens, acting quickly and partnering at the local, regional, state, and federal levels. Starting in mid-May, we offered rent and loan payment deferrals for borrowers and commercial tenants. We provided resources through Apano to support businesses that were among the first to feel the devastating impact of the pandemic. And with many partners, we launched the $2.4 million Small Business Relief Fund to provide small grants and no interest loans to impacted local businesses. These limited resources have helped nearly 350 vulnerable businesses meet payroll, pay rent, or manage their inventory costs. The citywide 823-4000 hotline assistance team has fielded hundreds of calls from businesses and impacted individuals and offered personalized responses in the appropriate language. We continue to ramp up support for small businesses owned by people of color and women through the Inclusive Business Resource Network and Mercatus. Both are prepared to deploy additional training and digital marketing help for businesses that to adapt to our new reality. In the days ahead with our partners, we are looking to connect dislocated workers with new job opportunities, highlight the needs of art and nonprofit organizations, better support undocumented Portlanders, provide technical assistance, and engage with lenders to reduce commercial displacement when the moratoria lifts, address the digital divide, and ensure construction activity can continue. Finally, we recognize that financial needs are far greater than the current funding available. We remain committed to finding more resources for the Small Business Relief Fund and to pursuing impactful uses of federal dollars through the CARES Act and future stimulus funding. We are grateful to the regional members represented here and our many community partners. We know this collaborative approach will continue to be critical in the months ahead to build a more equitable and resilient economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Next up, we have Matt Miller with Greater Portland, Inc. Matt.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for organizing this event. Greater Portland, Inc. is the regional economic development organization serving the 7-county bi-state Portland metropolitan area. GPI is also the federally designated economic development district serving the 4 largest counties in our metro area. We continue to work on multiple fronts to support the region's communities. Since the beginning of the crisis, GPI has been regularly updating its comprehensive business resource portal, which can be found at greaterportlandinc.com, containing information on local, regional, state, and federal resources. We've been co-convening the region's economic response team with the governor's Metro Regional Solutions team to streamline information exchange and elevate issues to the COVID Economic Recovery Task Force and state and federal leadership. We're hosting weekly COVID-19 forums with economic development, workforce development, community development, financial institutions, and others to share best practices and response approaches. GPI is directly assisting our community partners throughout the region in business outreach and researching questions about recovery assistance programs. We are exploring grant resources to deploy to communities to support businesses affected by COVID-19. We are in regular communication with the Economic Development Administration's offices in Seattle to identify any resources that may be made available to the Economic Development District that could be deployed within our region. Greater Portland Inc. and Metro are working in partnership to develop the region's next comprehensive economic development strategy, an endeavor that will take on heightened importance as we consider near-term planning for reopening and recovery in alignment with public health guidelines. Finally, we continue to work with companies considering expansion opportunities in this region that will create much needed immediate job opportunities as we reopen and recover. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next is Ashley Henry with Business for a Better Portland. Ashley.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Ashley Henry. I'm the director of Oregon Business for a Better Portland. We are a relatively new Chamber of Commerce. We've been around for about 3.5 years. We have a little over 400 members. And what we've been doing is to connect with small business organizations and economic development organizations all over the state, and also with diverse chambers of commerce here in the Portland area to lift up the needs of some of our smallest businesses. As many of the folks who've spoken before, the focus has been on addressing the needs of the most vulnerable companies in this moment, micro enterprise, oftentimes companies with 5 or fewer employees. And we immediately started up a switchboard that I commend to all of you to use. It's a great resource for sharing asks and offers. We have received generous offers from some of our members in the form of free trucking services for resources for organizations to utilize, a lot of creative suggestions about how to pivot your business in this moment, a lot of resources just organically being shared through our switchboard, and we welcome everyone to utilize that. The other effort that we have spent the majority of our time on, recognizing, of course, that the local resources, however great the job is that Prosper Portland is doing, which is really commendable. We really do need more support from the state, and we're pleased to hear that the emergency board will be convening this week to consider a lot of different expenditures, one of which will be hopefully support of Oregon's smallest businesses. We convened a letter of over 40 organizational partners as diverse as the Clackamas Business Alliance, several economic development organizations from Southern Oregon, as well as our own organization and many in the Portland area. And the ask has been really specific on the kinds of direct payments that can be made to some of the smallest businesses, as well as the technical assistance that is needed oftentimes to navigate the opportunities that come from the federal government. We have a pretty diverse membership within our own organization, and what's been so interesting is to see the divide between those who have the resources internally to apply and get the paperwork in order and those who don't. And so we just continue to advocate for additional technical assistance resources at the community level to support some of our smallest businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Next up is Andrew Hone with Portland Business Alliance.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone on this call, to the mayor for convening this great conversation, and for your leadership, to the elected officials as well, who we have partnered with, to our colleagues in the business community, our gratitude for your advocacy and leadership. My name is Andrew Hone, and I am the president and CEO of the Portland Business Alliance, which is Greater Portland's Chamber of Commerce. And we represent more than 1,900 members from across the state and region, and proudly affiliated with Downtown Portland Clean and Safe and Partners in Diversity. We are one economic region. And this has been an incredibly difficult month, and yet I am proud of the people on this call, the teams we all represent. The Portland Business Alliance has taken a number of actions immediately out of the gate. We joined with the mayor's task force. We proudly joined with the governor's task force. We stood up portlandalliance.com/COVID-19 as a resource to our members and the community. And we have convened roundtables with our elected leaders to provide direct access to members and businesses and community members across the state and region. Earlier this month, when our region's hospitals and clinics reached out to alert us for the need for personal protective equipment, we asked on their behalf, and our members responded, of all sizes, from Intel to Nike, Powell's and Leatherman Tool Group. They made bold decisions and quick action to donate more than 1 million pieces of personal protective equipment. When Mayor Wheeler and Prosper Portland, along with Commissioner Hardesty, made a call to us and asked for funds to raise funds for relief to small businesses, our members responded. Bank of America, Columbia, JP Morgan Chase, KeyBank, Umpqua, US Bank, and Wells all stepped up and raised more than $1 million in support of small business relief with an equity lens, and we were thrilled to participate in that. In addition, we organized and collaborated with over 32 organizations across the regions to outline ways that local leaders could act to alleviate the burden on businesses so that jobs could be saved. And I want to thank the mayor, the county chair, and others on this call who were able to provide relief for estimated payments on taxes, as well as last year's business taxes. That made a huge difference in our ability to save jobs. Thank you. We continue to work with our elected leaders to advocate for improvements in our housing, construction, and permitting process. And we look forward to making sure our economy can reopen in an equitable way across this region. Once again, thank you to all of our partners, and we are looking forward to continuing to flatten the curve and reopen this great economy when we can.
Thank you, Andrew. Now we have 2 more speakers. Next is Jeff Miller with Travel Portland. Jeff?
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for including tourism in this conversation. As an economic driver for the region and the source of more than 36,000 incremental jobs, our industry is suffering greatly. Travel Portland is funded by lodging taxes, which are coming in at lower levels than we have ever seen. With more than 20 hotels in downtown closed, hotel demand and occupancy were both down more than 55% in March. Weekly views in late March and April show that occupancy and the full stats will be down at least 80%. Of note is that Travel Portland is a 501c6, and this classification has not been included in federal stimulus packages yet, so we're not eligible for loans or other support currently. We have restructured to a smaller staff with a strategy designed to give us a focused team that will help restart the economy in a few impactful ways. First, we want to help our 800 partner businesses by halting small business partnership dues and fees. Second, we know we need to get Portlanders out spending money. We'll use our website, social media, and other marketing tools to focus locally first. We're already using those tools to help businesses that are open, offering takeout or other retail sales opportunity, and links to this information are in the mayor's office list, or you can go to travelportland.com. We continue with the inspirational work that's for years put our destination at the forefront of travelers' mind, with links to both virtual experiences at our museums, parks, and other sites, in addition to Teleportland, which tells stories of creative Portlanders and how they continue to innovate in during these times. We're also connecting our local businesses and leaders with valuable resources and links via our weekly industry update. Third, leisure travel, we know, will be the first market to open back up, and we will be focused on drive markets within Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. Fourth, we've had significant cancellations of convention business and single hotel meetings for the coming months. but we've also booked 3 very large conventions for 2023, 24, and 27. So the work does go on, and there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And I'll mention one of these conventions in particular called SOCNUS, the Society for Advancement of Hispanics, Chicanos, and Native Americans in Science. On a rainy Sunday night in January, we hosted the CEO and meeting planners of this organization, and with help from our partners like Gail Castillo, Renee Rank-Ignacio, Carrie Stoudemire Phillips, and many other leaders in the community, they attended a reception, and SOCNUS decided that evening that they would host their 50th anniversary convention. And it's what Portlanders do well. We show up for each other, and these conventions make a huge economic impact. So I was so pleased to be supported by our community. Our efforts on events like My People's Market with Prosper Portland will be a focus of our work as visitors come back to our hotels. We've seen some devastating job losses in our hotels and local businesses, and Travel Portland's only job right now is to be ready to tell Portland stories, because we know you haven't been to Portland until you've met the people. Thanks, Eileen.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, and finally we have Skip Newberry with Technology Association of Oregon. Skip.
Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for organizing this event. At TAO, we've been working on behalf of the tech industry to bring together public, private, and educational sectors to develop a world-class, inclusive, and innovation-based economy here in Oregon. Early in March, the tech industry mobilized quickly to enable their employees to work from home and care for loved ones. And during this crisis, the tech industry and its employees have also been very committed to helping the community at large. We've been working to connect high-tech manufacturing firms and 3D printing hobbyists with healthcare providers locally who need personal protective equipment. We've also been working to close the digital divide for those businesses who are most at need and most vulnerable, including the service industry and also minority-owned businesses. We've connected tech companies to school districts in need of equipment to enable remote learning by students, and also getting devices for virtual healthcare visits. We're also working to connect displaced workers with tech companies who are hiring at the moment. And we're also doing quite a bit of work to support startups and technologists who are working to develop new tech solutions to help small businesses who need access to online payments and to enable the purchase of gift cards to do so that they can generate revenue and digitally transform. We've been assembling a lot of technology-related resources available to small businesses locally on our website, techoregon.org, and we encourage all of you to please check those out if you're looking for technology to help you navigate this crisis. We've also been advising officials on procurement, loan, and grant programs to help small business companies here, especially tech companies and startups. So we look forward to continuing to work with our government and nonprofit partners to help local businesses navigate this crisis and ensure that as a region, we can build a future where we are more resilient, innovative, and stronger than before. Thank you.
Thank you, Skip. Okay, so I want to thank all of our speakers today for your time today, for your hard work, and for your partnership. We really appreciate it. And so now I want to take this opportunity to open it up for any questions. And so one quick logistical note, our technical director is going to need an extra second to identify who the reporter is and who the question is for. So reporters, when you ask your question first, let us know who the question is directed to. And that will give our technical director a couple of seconds to be able to unmute and add their video to this press conference. So before this started, a couple of reporters have already emailed me saying that they want to ask questions. So I'm going to go in the list from first come, first serve, and then any reporters who have additional questions, just email me and I will add you to this queue. Okay, so the first question is from Galen at KGW. Galen?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I was hoping to speak with Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler here. He mentioned the Portland Housing Bureau taking applications for households that are suffering losses. I was hoping he could speak a little bit more specifically about what that would look like, and is there more money planned down the line to meet the growing need?
Yeah, good. Thank you for the question. First of all, the City Council and the Housing Bureau allocated $1 million. Actually, it was a reallocation of resources within the Housing Bureau towards the Homeowner Stability Fund, and that provided not only resources for lower income folks in the community to be able to do things like pay the rent, it also paid for essential household supplies. That fund will be expanded, and it's part of the budget discussion that I'm going through now as I prepare the proposed budget that I'll release later this month. It's also possible that through the CARE Act, we'll be able to increase those resources directly. So I can tell you that $1 million was the baseline. I can tell you that there will be more resources that are available in the form of grants. I just can't tell you the amount today, but we will know shortly, and I'll make sure that we update the community when we do know the exact number.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Wheeler. Thank you, Galen. The next question is from KPTV, Brenna Kelly. Hi, Brenna.
Actually answered, so you can take the next reporter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is from Eden at Portland Monthly.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. My question is for Mayor Wheeler. I have spoken to several dozen now at this point, small businesses in Portland over the last week, particularly small retail shops who say they've gotten zero amount of financial support. They didn't qualify for the PPP, no Prosper Portland, haven't heard on the EIDL, and they also are unable to get through to unemployment because the system doesn't currently yet allow for self-employed. So I guess I'm wondering what advice we might have for people in that financial situation, and also if we are looking at some of the encouraging things that Mayor Bemis and Mayor Doyle have done with their SBA tech advisory teams, and also the kind of shop local campaigns around them.
Yeah, I absolutely love to hear what other partners around the region are doing. And I always like shop local campaigns. I love the idea of a Takeout Thursday, or maybe we'll make it a Takeout Wednesday or Takeout Tuesday. But those are the great ideas that help not only help small businesses get through the crisis, but it also builds, I think, the larger customer base over the long run. People may not always take advantage of things like takeout. And if they try it and they like it, then maybe they'll become a customer for life. Who knows? So those are great ideas. In terms of businesses that have not received support, I've certainly heard that. And even the initial resources that we had, $3 million in our initial resources allocated towards either grants or low to zero interest loans, those are immediately swamped by the need that's out there in the community. And of course, the payroll protection program at the federal level, they dispersed billions of dollars in a matter of minutes. It seemed, in so many businesses that wanted access and needed access to those resources couldn't get it. And of course, we've had problems at the state level with an antiquated unemployment insurance system that's made it difficult for people to gain access to unemployment insurance. Here's two rays of hope. Number one, I think that the folks at the state level are working hard to make sure that employees can access that unemployment insurance. It's also my hope that when the legislature reconvenes in special session, which I believe they'll do in late May, that unemployment insurance and support for people who are recently unemployed or have seen their jobs scaled back have access to those direct relief resources. And of course, in conversations I've had with our federal partners, Congressman Blumenauer, Senators Wyden and Merkley, my understanding is there is going to be an expansion of the PPP program so that more companies, more employers that need access to it can get access to it. And then frankly, just a slight editorial here. I believe those resources were designed to help support small businesses. And as you know, 80% of the people in this community are employed by small businesses. I hope whatever Congress does, and I hope whatever the state chooses to do through its own stimulus package, as far as business relief, I hope they will focus on small business relief.
Great.
Of course, our own fund, Small Business Relief Fund, that $3 million was the initial contribution. We expect to see an increase in that as well, either through the CARES Act or through other sources.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Eden. Thank you, Mayor. Next question is from Jacqueline at Coin 6. Hi, Jacqueline. Is Jacqueline here?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Jacqueline Abad with Coin 6. My question is for Mayor Wheeler as well. So with $114 million being allocated to the city of Portland, I know that you guys are still waiting on guidance from the federal government, but where would you like to see those funds go towards?
I would put it in two specific areas. And again, I don't know because I don't have the federal guidance as to whether either of these areas would qualify, but the two categories of individuals and organizations that are being hit the hardest by this are number one, households, and number two, small business operations. Within the households, obviously rent support is critically important, but so too is the ability to purchase other essential household items. We're hearing that from more and more people. And we need to focus on frontline communities. The hardest hit by the COVID crisis are people of color. The African American community and the Latino community in particular have had the highest percentage cases of COVID on the health side, and they were obviously disproportionately impacted, along with all people of color, by the layoffs and the furloughs and the economic consequences of COVID. So I hope as we seek to support our Portland households, we also put that equity lens front and center. Then when it comes to the small business support, we've already got really good templates through Prosper Portland. We provide technical assistance through the Inclusive Business Resource Network. We already provide 0 and low interest loans. We've been able to stand up a grant program through the Small Business Relief Fund and our partners in the philanthropic and the private sector. That's a plug and play opportunity for us, provided that when the federal rules come down through the US Treasury, we're able to do that. But those are the two areas, households and small business support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jacqueline. Okay, the next question is from Keaton Thomas at K2. Keaton.
Hi, guys. I assume you can hear me? Hello? Okay, I'm assuming you can hear me. Great. This question, I guess, is also for Mayor Wheeler. And it's kind of been touched on previously, but while we have an eviction moratorium right now, what's being done to help those folks who, at the end of all this, are ultimately going to be swamped in some sort of debt, either to their landlord or to a bank for their mortgages?
Yeah, and that question so far is unanswered. And I might want Chair Kafoury to also respond to this question, because I know this is something she's been working on as well. But we passed that moratorium on residential evictions, understanding that a lot of people in this community were going to lose their paycheck, therefore they were going to lose their ability to pay the rent. And what we didn't want to do was exacerbate an already very serious homeless crisis in our community. So Multnomah County has adopted the state standard for residential eviction moratorium. And that gives people up to 6 months to be able to collect those resources, to be able to pay their rent. Beyond that, the question is, will there be support as part of this $114 million that came to the city? And I believe the county has up to $28 million. Will there be the opportunity for rental support? I believe the answer will be yes, but I don't know that today. But obviously that's going to be a key driver of economic prosperity going forward. And if we cannot answer that question, I think it will continue to drive a wedge between the haves and the have-nots in this community. And so as we go through this recovery phase, I want to make sure we don't just exacerbate the income inequality that existed prior to COVID. I believe the chair would probably have a good response on this as well. She's been working hard on it.
Well, thank you, Mayor Wheeler. You did a great job answering that question. I would just reiterate that the reason that we put a 6-month grace period in there was to allow time for the city, the county, the state, and the federal government to gather the means necessary to help our vulnerable residents. We know that the scale of this crisis means that a lot of people are going to need assistance, and we need to make sure that it's not something that the city or the county can handle by ourselves. We're going to need help from the state, from the federal government.
Okay, thank you, Chair Gafori, and thank you, Mayor Wheeler. Eden had a follow-up question. Would that only be for residential or commercial relief as well? Mayor or Chair Gafori, do you know the answer to that?
The answer I gave was with regard to residential relief.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we are running out of time, and it's a few minutes past 1 o'clock, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know they have an incredibly busy afternoon, so thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to all of the journalists who signed on and had questions. Please feel free to reach out to any of the speakers or to me personally if you have additional questions, and we will summarize all of this in a press release that will go out in a couple of hours, in addition to a web post with all of the economic resources that all of our partners just listed today. So it'll be like a one-stop shop for whoever needs that material. So thank you all, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
Public opinion shift over the next few weeks. And some of it also depends on kind of where the curve is, what the infection numbers are like, what the death, the death toll is a lagging indicator of kind of the damage, but the new infection rate is, I think, the number that continues to be what the epidemiologists are watching to see to what extent we're really flattening the curve. And the more that we have these kinds of protests and the more we have people going to tattoo parlors, the longer, the less we flatten the curve. And
James, I want to point out one word that you use that's such an important and fascinating word, astroturf, which of course is a word we all know, but it's so important because it looks like it's this grassroots sort of native movement, and yet it is constructed, it's sort of fabricated.
Yes, and people, there are powerful interests that are behind some of these, that are shadowy, that are connected to kind of deep-pocketed corporate types, people who